Hello, everybody! Welcome to the Metaphysics Hour. I am your host, Rory Colgan. Today, as in all days that I do a little video for you for your educational purposes, or maybe just for your entertainment purposes, might be pretty funny if you put me on mute and then just watch my head go pop, 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 and my hands come up once in a while, and you'll be like, this guy, who is this guy? What is he even talking about? So whether I provide you comic relief, which is highly unlikely, or some sort of educational relief, welcome to the show. And as I've said, I always talk on subjects that I'm interested in or subjects that I truly love. And this is a subject that came to me in my morning meditation, and so I thought I would share it with you because that was the thought that came into my mind. It says, speak on this, do this, it will be very educational for you and for others. So the idea that came to mind is an idea you've probably heard before, and it is success is 90% mental and 10% physical. Then as that thought popped through my mind, I saw my life and how I approach my life, and I saw that I wasn't giving enough mental capacity. I wasn't trusting that general rule of thumb. I wasn't even really believing it was designed that way. You know, I would wake up, I would do what I normally do, which is meditate, I would read, I would write, I would study, I would listen, I would teach a little bit, and I would do some more writing, I would travel, and then I'd watch some TV, and watch a show or something like that, because I don't actually have cable or even the 3 channels. I just watch DVDs or shows that I have on DVD. And I've talked to friends, write down a couple dreams, do some visualization exercises, do some healing exercises, and then go to sleep. So that was my day. And there was a part of me that was thinking, you know, Rory, you need to do more. You need to market yourself more. You need to get out more. You know, you need to do. If you want to be as successful as you want to be, you're going to have to do more. You're going to have to do more. And up until this morning's meditation, I was believing that, and yet at the same time not willing to listen to that thought. And now that I've had this experience, and I can share it with you as well, I see it in a more holistic light, or at least a more holistic light I believe I see it in. And again, it's the idea that 90% of your work, my work, is actually mental. And I would include in that emotional and spiritual. You know, because the company that I founded, Inner Health Today, focuses in those 4 areas. That yes, there is the physical, but then the mental, that 90% that we talk about commonly, is actually emotional, mental, and spiritual. And that makes 100%. I truly believe that. I know that that's true. I've studied it pretty extensively, knowing that we are not just physical beings. It's probably something you've heard me say before, that you are not your body, that you are actually a soul or a subconscious mind. You exist beyond the physical body that you're housed in, and you even have a origin that is deeper than that counterpart, that soulmate component. You actually have a spirit, which is a reflection of your divinity that's beyond all vibratory creation. Now that might have been a mouthful, but if you stayed tuned to the Metaphysics Hour, we will definitely get more in depth with the mind. But today let's just look again at this really broad way of identifying how you can become successful. 10% physical, 90% spiritual, mental, emotional. Hence, our common phrase, success in life is 90% mental and 10% physical. It may feel like that 1 or 2% in the physical is what you really need to work on. That's kind of where I'm at in that story that I shared you, is that I could do, 10 to 20% better out of that 10%. So I could go from an 8 to a 10 in my physical usefulness. Or I could look at my mental side, that side that has the 90%, and I could look at it and say, wow, I'm only operating at 40% capacity instead of, why not jump up to 60 or 80? Improve 2 percentage points by working my butt off in the physical, putting all of my books out into the community and to newspaper reviewers, book reviewers, making sure I'm on radio shows consistently, making sure that I'm doing all sorts of college speakings and speaking at churches and synagogues and temples and blah, 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 blah. So I could really work on that 2%. Or I could recognize the truth. And the truth is that as I work on the 90%, the mental, emotional, and spiritual, I will experience a much greater reward for my efforts. So the idea, again, is true that if you focus your energies mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, success will come your way if you're doing the physical work, that 5 to 10%. If you can really work that, get up from 0, which is not doing anything and just watching mindless TV, to 3% to 4%, which is where you're watching people talk like me, where you're thinking about things, where you're trying to put some ideas into application, to 4 or 5 or 6%, of that 10%, where you're really starting to put it into work. You could, again, keep trying to improve how you're putting it into work, which to me is really like trying to push a string. Or you could spend some of your time or more of your time in the mental capacities. Now, the only way that this will actually work is if you do not have the desire to be go, 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 go. There might be a disdain or a distaste or a indifference to the physical. If you have that, then more than likely this model will work for you. If you have a drive to be really physically oriented, then more than likely you're not listening to me. More than likely you're doing what you need to be doing. I, on the other hand, had that approach, or had that sense that, things aren't the way I want them to be. And yet at the same time, I don't see how acting a whole lot more in the physical is going to make me any happier. Because you have to understand that my primary motivation for success, and what I would say for you as well, is a sense of happiness, is a sense of joy, is a sense of excitement, is a sense of peace. Those 4 characteristics kind of encapsulate the idea that most of us just call fulfillment or happiness or contentment. I really do think it has more to do with joy, excitement, happiness, and contentment or peace. If you can have all 4 of those, you have a very healthy life and a healthy view of what success is. So that's been my motivation. Yes, I want to be a best-selling author. Yes, I want to do all-day conferences and weekend retreats and week-long retreats and be really well known as a metaphysical authority. But it's not for money. It's not for fame. It's not so other people respect me. I don't really care if people respect me. I appreciate it when they do, because I know that they have been touched by me in a way that is fulfilling. But I don't seek other people's approval. Therefore, my motivation to be successful has nothing really to do with those things that I've just mentioned. Oh, sure, there's a little bit. Yeah, I'd like to have a little bit more money. I'd like to, have a little bit more freedom, and I'd like to know that I'm reaching more and more people. But beyond that, these things matter very little to me. What matters more is that sense of joy, that sense of excitement, that sense of happiness, that sense of peace or fulfillment. That's why I do this. So if you have your motivation clearly identified, what you'll start to recognize is that your success, my success, anybody's success is indeed a 90-10 split. 90% of it is done through the power of your mind. 10% of it is done through the power of your mind, engaged, anchored into the physical. Imagine a fishing line, right? You're throwing this fishing line out into the lake. And there's only a little bit of that line that's connected to the actual rod. And then, of course, there's a lot more of that potential behind the reel. So there's a lot of line back there. But most of the active line is in the water, in the air. That's a great analogy of the mind. The mind is all this potential inside the real and all of this reality outside of the actual rod. That rod is maybe 6 feet long. So those little 3 or 4 eye hooks on your pole are the only connections. To me, that's a great analogy of how physically engaged you need to be. Most of your line, most of your life, most of your mind needs to be engaged in a much more significant way than just body bumping. Moving your body around and dropping off flyers, or, sending books to publishers, or sending out resumes to literary agents, because that's, something I'm interested in, is writing best-selling novels and self-help books. So instead of just beating myself to death with that activity, I can recognize that I need to improve my mental state, and that my success is going to come if I'm spiritually clean, if I'm mentally clear about what I want, and if I'm emotionally engaged in the process. Then I'll act when it's time to act, and I'll be receptive when it's time to be receptive. The last thing that I'll say about the 90-10 model, that success is 90% mental and 10% physical, is what came to me in the meditation after that thought came in about, this is what I'm going to speak to you. The idea or the image that popped into my mind was a gardener. 10% of the work, you really see that the plants, the soil, the rain, the sun, all that is actually what powers the tomato to go from a little seedling to a plant that produces ripe fruit. So think of your life more as a gardener. Realize that there are doubts, frustrations, and fears that get in as weeds, and you need to pull those out. But mostly sit back and enjoy the rain, enjoy the sunshine, and feel rooted in the dirt. In essence, feel rooted in your mind. And if you're rooted in your mind, and you act in accordance physically when it's time to act, you will have a very healthy garden, and you will be very successful, because you'll be listening to the 90-10 principle. I'm your host, Rory Colgan. Subscribe if you're interested in receiving more of these insightful remedies for our educational quagmire. And also go to innerhealthtoday.com and click on the link for support if you want to give financial assistance. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.